Welcome.
Good evening.
I'm Tom Herbalist, and this is Carol McGravy from the firm of Herbalist and Field Steel.
Great. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting us.
Sure.
What we're going to kind of try to accomplish, which is difficult, is to give you about 10 minutes to tell us a little bit about who you are over and above what you sent us, and give us about 10 minutes to ask you clarifying questions.
Great.
And this is kind of our first step in the winning of the process. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. As I said, I'm Tom Herbalist, and with me is Attorney Carol McGravy. And what I'd like to do is just tell you briefly about the firm in general, and tell you a little bit about myself, and Carol will tell you about herself, and then I'll tell you about some of the other lawyers in the firm that will be helping you. I graduate of Union College, electrical engineering. I have a master's degree in business administration, and my legal education was at Boston College. For the last 25 years, I have been the town council for the town of Andover, population of 33,000, which has an open town meeting like you do here in Lunenburg. And for the last 18 years, I was town council for the town of North Andover, about 31,000. And then last year they decided to have their council in-house, so they hired a full-time employee, so they didn't need our services anymore. I've also been special counsel for the city of Cambridge over the last 30 years, representing their police officers in civil rights cases. So I was town council for Andover and North Andover. Attended probably over 50 annual or special town meetings, done all the work necessary that needs to be done for towns. Carol and I actually, you put in there who would be backup. Carol and I actually work together. She does some things, I do some other things. Sometimes we work together on things, and obviously, as I said, we work together, and she'll be able to tell you her experience and her capabilities in municipal law. I'm sure you'll be interested in hearing that. So what I'd like to do is turn it over to Carol, have her tell you about herself, and then I'll tell you about some of the other lawyers in the firm.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here tonight and to meet you all. As far as my background, I graduated from Merrimack College locally, went to Boston University Law School, and I started my career as a municipal lawyer working for the city of Lawrence, where I started out as special counsel working with the community development and economic development departments. I also served for a time as counsel to the airport commission. I did some prosecutions in housing court, worked a lot with delinquent and abandoned properties there. Then I became city attorney in Lawrence, a position that I held for about 15 years before I went to work with Tom at their firm in 2002. And I've been there since, working with the towns. I was also, before I came, I was special counsel to the city of Somerville, again working on mostly economic development and community development issues there. So as I said, I've been with Herbalist and Field Steel since 2002. As Tom said, we work pretty closely together with all of the town clients on various issues that they need. Particularly, I tend to do a lot of procurements and contracts, land use, land purchases, some sales of municipal property, acquisition of conservation land, conservation restrictions, Community Preservation Act transactions, land transactions, some affordable housing transactions, that type of, I tend to concentrate on that. In addition to just working generally with Tom and the other members of our firm on virtually everything else that comes up for preparation for town meeting, warrant articles, whatever needs to be done. I think one particular aspect of our firm that I've always, in just my own practice, that I've always enjoyed is I've always worked in small sort of firm-like setting. Even when I was with the City of Lawrence, I essentially ran a small firm within City Hall. I had 4 lawyers and small staff, and a close relationship with the with town staff and officials. And we do the same, even though we have a firm, we're a Boston firm, but we still maintain that type of relationship with the clients. We want to get to know the staff, we want to get to know town officials so we understand what their priorities are and how we can assist to accomplish their goals and objectives for the town. So I'll turn it back over to Tom and then answer any questions you may have.
We also have in a firm, we're a 4-person firm, Tom Fiore, who is an environmental lawyer who currently is special counsel to the town of Arlington, is their environmental counsel. Tom's former with the Environmental Protection Agency in Washington, and he was a partner of a large firm in Boston before he came with us 15, 20 years ago. And he does all environmental work for our municipal clients, and he also acts as special counsel. John Fieldstead is an arbitrator and mediator in construction law, and that's what he does, so he's very familiar with in the world of construction. One of the things that you asked us to talk about in the emails you sent to us is any awards or things of acknowledgement that we've had. I and Carol are former presidents of the Massachusetts City Solicitor Town Council Association, which is now the Mass Municipal Association. I don't know of any other firms that have 2 presidents in the state, so we're very proud of that. I also have been the amicus curiae, friend of the court, coordinator for the City Solicitor Town Council for the last 15 years. I filed over 20-something amicus curiae briefs in the state and federal courts relating to municipal law matters. The City Solicitor Town Council Association has 2 awards that it gives out every year. One is the President's Award for someone who has, over a period of time, long period of time, contributed significantly to the advancement of municipal law. Some of the winners have been, as an example, former Attorney General Scott Harshberger. He was Attorney General. One year went to the staff of the Department of Revenue and Municipal Law Department, legal staff, got the award. I've been a recipient of that award, which I'm very proud of. The other award that the association has is called the Robert Ritchie Special Achievement Award, and that's given each year for someone who during that particular year has done something special that's advanced municipal law. And I've been a recipient of that award for work I did in Mika's brief in case of Suffolk Construction versus the Department of Capital Asset Management, where for the first time the Supreme Judicial Court recognized that a municipal lawyer for a municipality has all of the protections and the privileges of a lawyer. That had never really gone that far in the last 300 years since the SJC's been in existence, to articulate that relationship for a municipal lawyer. And so we are very proud of that. I believe I'm the only attorney in the state that's ever received both of those awards. With regard to that award also, last year I was fortunate enough to receive that award for the second time. And I enclosed the letter that the association sent with regard to my work that I've done over the years with regard to advancing, if you will, municipal law with amicus brief writing. So we're here to answer any questions you may have, and glad to do so.
I'll ask a two-sided question. One, if you're dealing with a board that is pushing with you to try, that they have an opinion for how they should go, and that's contrary to your legal advice.
on the other side of the board that really doesn't know where they should go and are looking for you to give advice, both possibly legal and maybe business advice as well?
Sure. The first one's easy. We call them as we see them. That's it. We call them as we see them. Sometimes our clients don't like that answer. But we've been successful for so long with the towns we've represented because our clients know that they're not going to get the political answer. We understand every town has political considerations in many of the legal issues that come before you, but what you're going to get from us is our best legal advice. We are also proud of the fact that we are not just attorneys, but we're also counselors, we're advisors. And we kick things around with our clients. As a matter of fact, what we do is, and what we've done, and Carol just did it today, and we've offered it here, is that we reserve time, free of charge, to the town, several hours a month, come out here and meet with any town officials or board or committee members about any legal issues. No charge. Just to kick stuff around for a couple hours, in a room like this, to answer that second question. Matter of fact, Carol is doing it today. So.
And while we're not policymakers, we give legal advice, but we also think as counsel, we can counsel you with regard to the policy decisions that you and other decision makers in town have to make. We realize we're not the final arbiters of that issue, but we hope to give you good legal advice to guide you with respect to those policies.
Thank you.
How many towns and municipalities are you general counsel for?
Right now, one, Andover.
Just it.
Yeah, we were for North Andover for 18 years until they went in-house last year.
Okay. And what is the position of your firm with regard to municipal? Like, are you looking to grow that? Obviously you're here tonight, so at least
right.
by one. But what is the long term? I mean, are you looking to grow the firm, or do you have an internal cap that you feel like?
No, we're not looking to grow the firm. We have, we can do the work that you have. I mean, we've done it, as I said, we've done it for North Andover for 18 years. We're not doing it anymore because they went in-house. Mm-hmm. So we can handle the workload. No, we are not. We don't have an intention to expand beyond our size.
And you have in your estimation, do you have all the expertise for different areas, whether it be land use and, well, obviously you're an environmental use person, so that's clear. But all the different aspects, did you ever have to go in North Andover out to a different attorney to engage their services for something?
Oh, sure. We don't do any labor work.
Okay.
And school work, we don't do. Their schools have their own issues, so we don't do those. But any of the land use, I do all the land use litigation. If there are lawsuits involving money, it's usually insurance counsel that takes those over. But I've handled all the land use litigation for both Andover for 25 years and North Andover for 18. And I think you'll see in the resume that we submitted, a lot of those have been up to appellate decisions, which I've been the attorney of record for. So, whether it's zoning board, conservation commission, planning board, we'll handle that.
So if I had to choose, we're interviewing 9, you are 8 of 9 right now, firms tonight. How would you differentiate yourself from, if you had one of those quote elevator talks, how would you differentiate your firm from other firms? What would be the special aspects that come with your firm?
Well, first, I think, hopefully, based upon what we told you tonight from our resumes and our history, I think we're capable. And I'm certainly not going to say other firms are not. But as Carol said, what we do is you call us, you're going to get a return call that day. Maybe not if you call us at 3, but I guarantee you, you're going to get a call back or an email back within 24 hours. But we may not have the answer, but we'll get back to you to find out what the problem is. I think that's one of the reasons we've been successful, is providing that kind of turnaround, attention to detail, and attention to attentiveness to our towns.
And I think that's been a deliberate decision on our part, is to be part of a smaller firm and not a larger firm, just for that reason, that we can get to know our clients, work closely with them, and understand their priorities and be responsive. So I think that sets us apart, in addition to the fact that we certainly feel we have the expertise in municipal law, given many years that we've been working in all aspects of it.
And just to follow up on that, is the proof's in the pudding, and the people that we put on there as references. 25 years we've done the work for them, 18 and others. Perfectly happy to have you call them.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you
very much for coming in.
very
Appreciate
much.
it.
Adam Costa. How are you?
Alonso, nice to meet
Adam.
you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Tom Alonso.
Glad to meet you, Jamie.
Good to meet you, Adam.
Good to meet you. Thank you. Okay, thanks for coming in. What we're going to try to accomplish, although it's difficult in the next 20 minutes or so, is to give you an opportunity to tell us a little bit about yourself over and above what you've sent us, and give us a chance to ask a couple of clarifying questions. And obviously our objective tonight is to winnow the field down to a couple of firms that we'll talk to in more detail.
You can't pick out of all of those people tonight. You just can't go like that. We'll see if we can keep you awake.
Okay, thank you. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm Lisa Mead. Thank you for having us here. And this is Adam Costa, and we represent Mead, Tallerman, and Costa. And let me just give you a little clarification on the submissions that you received from us, not to confuse you even more, having seen 8 firms tonight. When we submitted originally in November, it was Blattman, Bobrowski, Mead, and Tallerman. And our firm was in the midst of a change, but we couldn't submit the new firm because we were still the old firm. And so as of January 1, we became Mead, Tallerman, and Costa. Our 2 partners, Betty Ann Blattman and Mark Bobrowski, are moving towards retirement, and Mark was starting to do more large private development work that started to run into our municipal clients, and we started to have conflicts. And so we all said, okay, you go make your money in your last couple of years, and we'll do it. It's been a great split. It's not been anything issue. So all of our towns came with us, and 8 of the attorneys came with us. Mark and Betty Ann didn't, and 1 other attorney. So that's why you have Mead, Tallerman, and Costa, as opposed to Blattman, Bobrowski, and Tallerman. So let me tell you a little bit about the underlying philosophy of our firm. So I started our firm in 2004, having been the prior mayor of Newburyport and the city solicitor in Somerville. It became clear to me as mayor that I wanted an attorney that wasn't just a city solicitor or a town attorney. I wanted somebody who was a town council. I wanted to put council back in the word town council. I wanted somebody that was accessible, that communicated with me, and that was part of my team, so that when I tried to strategize about things and understand what my risks were from a legal perspective, then I could better judge the business decisions I had to make. And so my goal was to create a municipal law firm that did that exact same thing. And so we believe that the kind of services that we provide, because of our team involvement, providing counsel back into the town council services, our ability to communicate, and our accessibility to our clients, and reliability, I might say, to senior attorneys in the firm, provides that to our clients. And so that's how we've established ourselves. We have a couple of different fee proposals that we can talk about in a little bit, that helps you better utilize those kinds of services without worrying about the cost of those. But this all comes down to essentially prevention and helping you prevent lots of lawsuits and expensive litigation down the road and resolving issues before they become costly issues to the town. So I'm going to turn it over to Adam here so you can hear a little bit more about him.
So thank you for having us this evening. We certainly appreciate it. My roots are in land use and zoning and planning law. I began practicing with Mark Bobrowski back in 2004. Mark established a name for himself in the Commonwealth as sort of a zoning guru of sorts, and I learned from the best and began practicing land use and zoning law primarily, and over the course of my first few years morphed that into a more general municipal practice. But still, I found that in the municipalities that we represent that a substantial portion of the work that they do relates to land use and zoning and planning objectives, initiatives, whether it's being proactive and attempting to attract developers and new tax growth in your community, or it's being reactive and responding to 40B developments or other initiatives. We do a lot of that for the municipalities that we represent. And so I've worked on projects, 40B projects representing dozens of municipalities across the state, many of the municipalities where we're currently town council, and many others that bring me in as special counsel. I've represented nearby the Lancaster Zoning Board of Appeals for over a decade. They've had a number of 40Bs that have come through that town, and I've guided them through the process, in some instances approving those with conditions, and other instances rejecting them. I've represented a number of municipalities with 40R smart growth initiatives. I'm working with the city of Methuen right now. They're making a real effort to try and revitalize their downtown area. It's sort of stagnant. It has been for a few decades now. They want to provide initiatives to developers to come in and provide not only new housing opportunities, but mixed use opportunities as well. And so we've created an overlay district as a proactive effort to try and attract those developers to the community and revitalize that downtown area. And then, of course, we assist the municipalities we represent with zoning rewrites, whether it be full recodifications or zoning changes that are required from time to time. That's something that should be done with some frequency in your municipalities. And certainly, as you know, there are hot-button issues from time to time. A few years back, it was all about wind turbines and solar facilities, and these days the topic of the day seems to be whether it's medical marijuana or recreational marijuana, sort of preventing or preparing yourselves either to prevent those facilities in locations where they're not appropriate, or to permit them in locations where they are appropriate. And we have communities that we represent today that are on both sides of that argument. Those who want to attract those dispensaries to their communities because of the tax dollars associated with them and the host community agreements that can be negotiated. And we have other communities that have no interest whatsoever, and they want to find a way to really restrict those, or at least put into place a moratorium so that they're not under the gun because an applicant comes in before they've had an opportunity to prepare themselves. So that's our land use and zoning practice. In addition to that, we have a number of attorneys at our firm, 8 in total. We pride ourselves on all these attorneys being partner-level attorneys, although there are 3 named partners in the firm and a number of associates. We hire experienced attorneys who have practiced municipal law for a number of years. That's important to us because of the service that our clients expect. We recently brought on, as of January 1st, with the reorganization of the firm, Kate Federoff. Kate was for about 10 years with the city of Brockton, where she was an experienced practitioner. She was the lead in their legal department in-house and had experience in all facets of municipal law. A number of years back, we brought on a couple of different attorneys, Mike Kenefek, who had experience as a litigator and continues to work for us and for our municipalities as an experienced litigator, whether it be in the district courts and the superior courts. He's argued cases in the appeals court and the SJC as well. We frequently find ourselves not only in the courtroom, maybe with Lisa being the exception, she doesn't litigate with much frequency, but whether it be in the courtroom or before administrative agencies. So I frequently practice before the Alcoholic Beverages and Control Commission, representing several of the towns where we're counsel. Department of Environmental Protection, Appellate Tax Board. I was in front of the Housing Appeals Committee last week in connection with the 40B project. So not only do we provide the day-to-day guidance, but we're also quite active on the litigation front to the extent that that becomes a necessity. We take a proactive role in the communities that we represent. One aspect of our fee proposal that you might have noticed, and it's in our general description as well, is the concept of office hours, which has been something that we've employed from the very start as part of this idea of putting the word council back in town council. And that's an opportunity to put in face time with the municipalities that we represent. And some of the towns we represent want us to do that on an incredibly frequent basis every week, and others want us to do that with less frequency, bi-weekly or monthly. But we believe that the opportunity to spend time in your town hall with your public officials, having an open door policy, giving them an opportunity to know that they can come and find us, whether it be one day a week or one day a month, provides the opportunity for us to really get ahead of problems, as opposed to catching them on the back end when litigation is inevitable. With that, I'll turn it back over to Lisa if you have anything additional to add.
So Elaine, who's not here, I don't think, she sent all those really nice emails out, asked if we had any communities that were similar to Lunenburg that we represent. From a population point of view, we represent the town of Maynard and the town of Hanson, who use very different fee arrangements with us, but they are similar as a population. I don't think any community in Massachusetts is really exactly alike, but from a population point of view, budgetary point of view, they're pretty close. From a land area point of view, I would suggest the town of Deerfield, our client, who we've represented. Mark originally represented them in the 90s, and I started representing them in 2004. Deerfield's a little more rural. They have some opportunities on development, solar facilities, things of that nature, reuse. It's a little more like Lunenburg on a land use kind of scale. But those are the communities that we represent. They're similar to Lunenburg. And of course, we're familiar, obviously, we've represented Lancaster before Adam started doing work with the zoning board in Lancaster. I did work with the zoning board in Lancaster, so we're familiar with them. So, you know, we have communities that are similar to yours. Again, I think they're all unique, but you also all share some of the same challenges and advantages too. So we're happy to answer any questions you have.
I'll start with a two-sided question. You have a board pushing for a particular position that you as town council do not recommend or do not think is legally tenable. Or, on the other side, a board that doesn't know where they want to go and are looking to you for guidance both on the legal and possibly on the business side as well.
Sure. So where the board is taking a legally untenable position, so to speak, I would advise the board what the risks are, one way or the other. But when the board decides to do what it's going to do, we're going to represent them to the best of our ability and make those arguments that we need to make so the board has a leg to stand on, for sure. But I would first, certainly, in an appropriate way, advise them what the risks are going to be. But ultimately, you're going to make that decision yourself. On the other hand, a board that doesn't know, not really sure, politely suggest, find a way to work into the conversation about really what the rights are. One of the reasons our office hours are so important is that you get this relationship with folks, that they want to ask you the questions in advance. It gives you the opportunity to discuss with the town manager or appropriate other department head what the rights really are and suggest to them that they are. So there's nothing worse than having a board go blindly down a path. And so it's our job to kind of say, hello, raise the white flag and say, just so you know, as you go down this path, here's where you're going to hit, and here's what the possible outcomes are going to be. So we have that as a responsibility, I think, as town council.
Thank you.
Without having to go through this, can you just tell me how many total attorneys you have in the firm right now?
We have 8 total attorneys.
And how many towns are you general counsel for?
We are general counsel to 13 communities.
What is the goal? Like, what is the strategy of the firm as far as...
351.
Most water districts fired.
We've gotten the question in a few communities where I've interviewed. Do you believe, and a couple of which have hired us, do you believe that you're overtaxed? You've got too many communities for just 8 attorneys. And I think an important point is that if you look at our mix of communities, we represent communities on the North and South Shore, on the Cape and Western Massachusetts. Not all of those communities are communities with $100,000 or $150,000 or $200,000 annual budgets. Not all of those communities are asking us to attend weekly office hours or monthly office hours or office hours at all. So we represent smaller communities like Berkeley, like the town of Deerfield, for example. Those communities don't call on us with great frequency. We attend their town meetings. We're available when they need us if they've got particular zoning questions. I'm working on a zoning proposal for an overlay district in the town of Deerfield right now, but I haven't done anything substantive in Deerfield for 4 or 5 weeks because they haven't called me with any particular questions or any particular proposals that have been on the table, anything they needed me to do. So there are some smaller communities where we don't provide the day-to-day guidance, and so at the same time, there are other communities that do want that guidance. We provide weekly office hours in the town of Ashland. Lisa's there on a weekly basis. We're town council in Marblehead, and they frequently have needs. So we don't believe that we're overtaxed for the number of attorneys we have and the number of communities we have because of the diversity of the communities we represent.
If I could just follow on that, we're also not afraid to hire people to fulfill that need either. And that's one of the reasons we've tried to hire experienced municipal attorneys, because we want to have our clients be able to call us and get answers right away and not have to spend, have a client, an attorney spend 10 hours researching something that one of us can answer in a pretty frequent question. So, or pretty frequent answer. So we're really cognizant of what that balance is. And if we believe we're getting to the point that we're being stretched too thin, we'll hire somebody to cover that, or we won't seek further clients. I mean, that's the other alternative. And I was just kidding about the 350.
No, I'll say that you were. I don't think you were.
But goals. It's good to have goals.
No, I agree. So, obviously, we've interviewed, you are now the 9th of 9 interviews, and like I said, everybody, to other firms who sat there tonight, that everybody's graduated the bar, everybody has municipal experience, there's a level of, I will use the word basic competency that I think we can all be comfortable with, otherwise they wouldn't be applying and they wouldn't have the years of experience. But if you had to choose, the 1 minute or 1.5 minute response to what differentiates your firm from all the others, not only just not, but just your firm in general, what would it be?
I think that I would say it's the team member aspect of our firm, the counsel aspect of the firm, and the fact that the attorneys that we have in our firm are very well experienced attorneys, and that we are responsive. And I think that that's often overused, but I really think that if you talk to any of our clients, they do not have a problem getting hold of the number 1 or number 2 person responsible for their community at all. And we all know what's happening in that community. So if Adam is your chair, and I know what's going on, so that if he's not available to you and Heather needs something, she can call me and I'm going to be able to give her the answer to it, or I'm going to be able to get right back to her with that answer. So I don't think that the other firms can have that same confidence in their responsiveness, and I don't think that they have that same feeling of that we're part of the team and we really help give you advice one way or the other, not just legal advice, but we say, look, here, you got to look at, this is from our experience, this is what we've seen before, this is what I've seen when I'm behind that table with you, I get that, and I don't think you find that experience in the other firms.
Thank you.
And I would hope that, and I imagine you have already, or you will, once you whittle down the field to maybe a fewer number of firms, but that you'll reach out to some of the references that we provided to the board, because I'm confident, and I believe Lisa's confident, that if you speak to the town managers and town administrators and chairs of boards of selectmen that we work with, that they'll give you those rave reviews, that they'll tell you, we heard many times in many of the communities where we're now council, concerns they had with the firms they were working with. The firms are too large, we see different faces in town hall with some frequency, we might have a quote-unquote point of contact, but that's not the person that we're seeing for our planning board meetings or zoning board meetings. We can't reach that person and we get a low-level associate who gives us an answer that isn't entirely what we're expecting, and we haven't heard those same comments since we've become council. They seem pleased with the product that we're providing to them, they seem pleased with our availability. I can tell you that it's both a blessing and a curse to have a bustling practice, but I'm answering emails on the weekends, I'm answering emails, and at night I was on the phone with a client last night at about 9:30 in the office working through an issue. So it's just how it happens, but we pride ourselves in that responsiveness, and it's important, particularly when you're a smaller firm, to be able to offer that service to clients.
You mentioned host agreements in regards to marijuana facilities, and I'm just wondering if you can expand on any experience you have with host agreements in other communities.
Sure. So we take our guidance from the community. I have worked with boards of selectmen who have had a desire to attract, and when they get an application or they get interest expressed by a potential cultivation facility or dispensary, they want to move quickly. They don't want to lose that opportunity, and they have directed me to take what's being offered and to proceed as quickly as possible to the finish line, because the opportunity is before them and they don't want that applicant to move on to a neighboring community. In other instances, I've represented municipalities that said, well, we're not so sure about this. We want to be sure that, number one, we're protected, not knowing exactly what the landscape might be 2 years out, 5 years out, 10 years out with respect to medical marijuana, or particularly these days with respect to recreational marijuana. We want to be sure that we're protected, and we also want to be sure that we're getting the best deal possible. So I've drafted host community agreements, and I've reviewed others that have been proposed to us by applicants who have submitted their own versions to boards of selectmen I represent, that have provided for payments in lieu of taxes. Those are almost automatic in host community agreements these days. Annual payments, whether it be an initial payment made up front upon receipt of a license, followed by annual annual payments usually made on March 1st of each succeeding year based upon the prior year's revenues as a percentage of those revenues. Other communities have negotiated flat fees. Certain protections can be negotiated by municipalities with respect to the general area, the location of the facility. Many of those protections, at least in the arena of medical marijuana, are already provided through the Department of Public Health regulations. We don't know what the future environment might be with respect to recreational marijuana. We're representing to the communities that we represent that they consider the adoption of moratoria in the short term, only because the legislature has already extended out even further, another 6 months, the deadlines by which the Cannabis Control Commission will be created and then promulgate its regulations. So pending further guidance from that commission and knowing exactly what those regulations might state, there's some terminology in the initiative petition that was adopted back in November that raises questions as to what was really meant by the drafters of that legislation. So the concept that you can prohibit a recreational marijuana dispensary in any quote-unquote area where there's an existing medical marijuana dispensary. Well, what does that mean exactly? Is area the building itself? Is area the zoning district in which you're permitting that facility? Those are concerns that many municipalities have. So we've been careful not only in advising them of those concerns and trying to put into place protections so they don't find themselves in a situation they're not expecting to be in, but also in negotiating host community agreements to try to provide whatever language we can in those agreements to get exactly what it is that municipality expects and wants, but nothing more than that.
The other thing that we've done in the medical marijuana arena is that, obviously in addition to doing a host community agreement, because the entity needs to have a letter of support from you, so it gives you an opportunity to do a host community agreement, is that if you want a level of control after that happens, even though they may get a license from DPH, is that you adopt, the Board of Health adopt a licensing procedure, or the Board of Selectmen adopt a licensing procedure. And so even though the regulations at the state level are very, very detailed and complex, that you can add another layer of regulations that are similar to that on a local level, so you at least have your hands in there making sure that you know what's going on as well, that there's a reporting requirement to the local boards, and you can keep track of things and not just rely on the state. So there's a couple of levels that you can add for protection of the board in addition to the economic positives that could come out of a host community agreement.
Have you done, other than marijuana, have you had any experience with host agreements for other types of developments or other types of projects?
We've done, and I can let Adam answer this too, but certainly we've done development agreements for large development projects. So if a developer wants to come in and do something in your community and it requires zoning, of course you don't want to just automatically give them the zoning or have them go to town meeting. You want to get something back for that. You want to make sure the traffic improvements are made. You want to make sure if there's any mitigation that has to be paid, that's paid. You want to make sure that you have the controls that you need to have on from a municipal point of view. So you negotiate a development agreement prior to the adoption of zoning, for example, and then prior to going through the permitting process. So we've done those from a land use perspective. Additionally, in the solar arena, I actually permitted a solar field here in Lunenburg a long time ago, and on behalf of a developer. And so in the area of solar, obviously the tax agreements related to, and in the power purchase agreements, but those are a little more specific to those. So
I think that's right. Development agreements are being used with greater frequency in municipalities in conjunction with zoning because of the fact that, particularly under a program like Chapter 40R, Smart Growth Zoning, and I know you've got experience here in town, and we had some involvement with that as well. I know that you lose a certain degree of control because 40R zoning is as-of-right zoning, and so once you've adopted the zoning scheme, you can't control the development to the same extent that as you could prior to adoption of the zoning. So in many communities, and in fact in Easton, on behalf of the town, before we became general town council, we were engaged on a special council basis to assist with the drafting of a development agreement with a developer who came in with a sizable project, mixed use, a commercial component, a strictly residential component, and then a mixed use component, to negotiate a development agreement that included everything from improvements to the local fire station, to traffic mitigation, to monetary payments to the town to mitigate the effects of the development generally on the community on its infrastructure. It included an extension of sewer. So there was a lot of components to that agreement, and that was put into place before the adoption was presented, before the zoning was presented for adoption at town meeting.
And then the final example I would give you that's related to cleanup of a hazardous waste site. So in the town of Marblehead, there was a National Lead, which went all the way back literally to the Revolutionary War, was on this property, and then all the paint companies came along. And it was privately owned, and there was lead literally in the soil 2 feet deep. And it bordered the water, and it bordered a bike and walking path, and there was going to be development on this. So we had to find the primary responsible party, and then the owner wanted to get out of it, and the primary responsible party had to pay for it, but we didn't want them to walk away or declare bankruptcy. We were worried about that. And the town was involved because the town wanted the land to be developable and didn't want an AUL on it. So after a significant period of time, I was involved in it for about 7 years, but it had gone on before that. We ultimately had a 3-way agreement, which included DEP in it, where the property got entirely remediated. And entirely clean for residential use, even though then we negotiated a sale and used a third party, the Essex County Greenbelt, for the town to buy it as open space. But then it was completely clean. There wasn't an AUL on it. It was completely clean. It was abutted the bike path and then the harbor. So, we've had experience with getting lots of diverse parties with different interests around the table and really working through it if we need to.
Well, who would be the lead counsel and who would be the backup?
Adam would be the lead counsel and I would be the backup.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming in.
You're welcome.
for your time.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for hanging in there.
Yeah.
And thanks for the nice weather. And I just have to say, totally, this is a great school.
Isn't it?
I'm a little I've sat on a couple of building committees in my own community, and obviously we do this kind of work. And so when I walked in, I thought, there's got to be over budget. I was like, was it though, huh? It was really...
It's not closed, but it's going to be close to $3.5 to $4 million under budget.
Yeah, so you did construction management at...
The only thing I was, excuse me?
Oh, sorry, you need your meeting taped after this?
Yeah, yeah, I would think so, yeah. It's an open meeting, I think we should continue taping. My only point is, I'd really like a way to get input from Adam and Heather as well. And maybe just to ask them.
Luckily, they're here.
I know.
Go ahead.
In fact, you want to join us?
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, I wish we had the opportunity to get information on the references, too.
Well, I think what we're trying to do is get this to some manageable number.
Scoops, I can see both of you actually.
I think our objective is to try to get this to some manageable number, whether it's 2 or 3 or whatever we decide is manageable, and then maybe have them come back, or at the very least do some further due diligence, including reference checking, etc. But we do have the tool, that the evaluation form. I use that, but then I also use the kind of a forced ranking where I rank them 1 through 9. And it was interesting because when I just paired them up, they didn't exactly match. I don't know how we want to best do this. Has anybody got a suggestion?
Can we go through
Should we just
what
go
our
one
top
by-
3 are? or
Okay,
top-
fine.
Well, hold on, then I have to order mine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you want to give everybody a second to do that?
I guess I don't want to influence your ranking, but I was
already
able
did
to
by
rank.
saying that.
I was able to rank 1 through 8, but the one of them I kind of put all by himself. And that's John Barrett. I kind of said I think we have to have a conversation about, is that what we're looking for, or are we looking for a firm? Because I could rank him 0 or 1, depending on what.
Are we buying the person, or are we buying the firm, is what I wrote down.
Right.
Not questioning anything about the skill level or anything else like that.
But I was able to rank the other 8, I guess, in order.
So do we want to just go through the top 3 first, or top 4, or how do you want to?
Try the top 3 and see what happens.
Yeah?
Be interesting to see what we have.
Let me get a piece of paper so I can keep track of it. Okay. Who wants to go first?
I will.
Okay.
My top is Myers and Harrington. And my top 3 are Myers and Harrington, Mead, Talman, and Costa, and Deutsch Williams are my top 3.
And who was your third?
Deutsch Williams.
I'm not ready.
So my three were, is it Myranas?
Mieres.
Mieres and Harrington, Murphy, Hesse, Toomey, Lahane, and Meade, Talman, Costa. Fourth was Deutsch.
Okay, so we're pretty close.
That's right.
What was your?
Just for the sake of argument, let's put the fourth in. 'cause what was your fourth?
My fourth is Murphy, Hess, MHG.
We're the same.
So we have the same.
We're the same.
And what was your
Same
fourth?
four.
Deutsch?
My fourth was Deutsch.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
Tom, Phyllis?
I'm
Everybody
not ready.
Okay.
So, let me just look through one last time. The fourth is one, if we're going to four, it's close, so I just want to make sure. Okay, so let's, yeah, all right, so mine are Deutsch Williams, MHTL,
Murphy, Hesse, Toomey.
right, Merrick O'Connell, and Miaris and Harrington. But they were kind of tied with KP laws.
And who was your fourth one?
Miaris and Harrington.
Okay. You ready yet, Phyllis?
Well, I've got three.
Okay.
Miaris, Meade, and Deutsch.
This is good. Mieres, then Meade,
And Deutsch.
and then Deutsch.
And it's yours, Mr. Chair.
Mieres and Harrington, Meade, Murphy, and Deutsch.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing.
And my guess, well, let's get some input. Adam or?
I get to go first. What do you want for input? I mean,
Well, any
Your
input, really.
opinion. I've worked with 4 of the first 5 firms in some manner that you interviewed, and I like all of the individuals. I think that if you were to ask my 3, it would be Amaris and Harrington, Myrick O'Connell, and Meade, Talman, Costa. I think KP is a good firm. I think they've come lately on the delivery of service and, staffing up. And I think that the town would benefit from fresh blood. I very much like Brian Winter. I worked with him when I first started here. I didn't feel that was a firm that was going to represent the town the way that you guys wanted. The other 3 firms, Murphy, Hess, Toomey, Deutsch Williams, and Field Steel, I think that they did just was I think a personality that from my perspective sort of dropped them a little bit below the 3 that I sort of put out there. I will say that Myrick O'Connell, I know I've worked with Mark Terry on some things, so and I know he's labor council and he's out of it. The other gentleman I had worked with across the table in my previous life and previous employment, and I always found him easy to deal with. His personality was good. And the second, Steve Medaus, is probably one of the best land use attorneys I've ever dealt with. I've never dealt with him on this side of the table, always as a developer's attorney. I've had conversations with him, not as town council, but in a collegial way about town issues and things like that, because he had a relationship with my previous town manager, and he just is he's a phenomenal attorney. And so I think that from my experience, that boosts Merrick O'Connell up. Mieres and Harrington, they worked as special counsel on a court case that I was involved in a previous employer. I was always impressed with their thoughtfulness, their responsiveness, and the ability to get a direct and clear answer from them. I worked with Ray Mieres, not Tom Harrington, but I did work with Christopher Heap, and I could pick up the phone and I could talk to them. They didn't answer the phone, but it was never an issue to get in touch with them. So there's a responsiveness and there's an ability to communicate and a frankness that I found refreshing from attorneys. And Meade, Tallerman, Costa, their presentation impressed me. They were well representing of themselves. They got their ideas across very clearly and concisely, and it was evident that they were willing to flush whatever they're working with you on out to the degree that you want it flushed out. And you all know everything we deal with is cyclical and circular, and there's really no right or wrong answer. In many cases, it's just how you want to approach it, and I think that they represented that was something they were also of a mind to do.
Thanks.
My ratings would have been Myrick O'Connell as number 1, Meade, Tallerman, and Costa 2, Murphy, Hess, Toomey, and Lehane as 3, and Urbalis and Fields as 4. So I've really enjoyed working with Mark. I know it would be on the other side working with the other attorney, but I think their approach as far as responsiveness, Mark is very responsive. Their RFP response, it seemed to mirror their presentation, that they take that responsiveness to that next level. That's very important to their present to their clients. I agree with Adam. The Meade's presentation was phenomenal. I like how they got across their experience that they've worked on, like host community agreements. That really, I think, translated well. And
Excuse me.
the other 2 firms, just personalities stood out to me as far as people that would be good to work with. But I do like what your comment was on Mieres. Personally, I like a direct response from counsel, and that approach I would like.
You like I didn't hear
A direct response.
Okay, as opposed to,
Well, you could,
circling an issue.
yeah, or the answer could be yes, but it could also be no,
Right.
which is a lot of attorneys' responses to things.
Which is
Are you
not
s-
very helpful to my second question, which is if we don't
Right,
know what we're
right,
doing,
right.
we're looking for a direction.
so you'd rather them not tell you things that may be nuanced, just because you don't want to hear things that are nuanced? I just want to make sure I'm correctly hearing you.
I'll let Heather speak for herself.
Sometimes you hear what they think you want to hear
Right.
Okay.
versus this is like off-the-cuff answer. This is, as your legal counsel, this is what I think you should do. In the best interest of the town, litigation-wise.
That's interesting, because that was going to be my follow-up question, and I almost asked it like 5 times after Bob's. Because I think the answer to me, if you ask legal counsel, what should I do? They should say, you know what you should do. I can only tell you what the parameters are that you're asking me. I don't know what you should do. What you should do is a policy question.
I think there's a
What you
nuance
can
here, though,
do-
Tom. Tom, I think there's a nuance here, and what I'm hearing, and tell me if I'm wrong, is sometimes someone doesn't know what you want, so they don't give you what they think. They give you a kind of a both sides until they figure out what you're looking for.
They give you the squishy answer.
Right, and I think what I think I hear you saying, and what I appreciate is when somebody says, I think you ought to do this, but obviously you're the decision maker, and let me tell you the risks about not doing it that way.
Or if you say, my question is, we want to do this in this manner. And they say, well, you could do that, but you also couldn't do that, and this, and
Okay,
it becomes sort of we're going to give you every option that the law allows you to do. as opposed to, here's what we want to do. Is it legal? Are we doing it the correct way? And they say, no, you're a bonehead, you can't do that. Or, yes, but I don't think you should do that. And here's the alternative that I think accomplishes the same thing. Or, what you want to do is fine, but it's not going to accomplish that, it's going to accomplish this. And my experience is all attorneys don't give advice in that way.
So do we want to go through the reasons why we felt strongly about people, similar to what Adam did, or how do you want to move beyond that?
I want to get it narrowed down
Okay.
to the
Good.
point where we can have them come back in. But
Okay.
if that would be helpful,
So
fine.
how many,
How many do we agree
how
on?
many picked Miaris?
All,
Well, they were
Jamie,
number
what
one
about-
on 3 lists, 4 lists, and they were on Tom's list, but 4th.
But not on your list.
But
No, that's okay.
yeah,
It's not-
it
not-
was,
no, it's not-
it was more the presentation, I think.
Yeah, okay.
I'd like to say why I felt strongly that they were my number one, was the proactive approach really, I think, is important, is to get in front of issues before they become legal issues. And they really stress that, and establishing the communication and the relationship to encourage early discussion about issues. And I like the client-to-attorney ratio. I think they have extensive experience with host agreements, not just for marijuana dispensaries or for odd things, but they're using them for a multitude of things, whether it be called a hosted community agreement or a development agreement, but they're using them to mitigate development in other communities, and I think that that's something we should be looking at. And I also found them to be extremely personable.
I like Carrington better than Heath, but I found them both to be personal.
See, I liked Heath better.
Oh, good. But what I did like is the concept of nighttime government and daytime government, because I really do think there's 2 different
Yeah.
facets to it.
Yeah.
I appreciated that they've worked with Littleton for so long, because I think that's a very well-run community. So they're getting good advice.
Yeah, I thought that they recognized that they needed to have a legally defensible position, that they wanted to get in early in discussing things, to create
I
a
like
record. That goes to the training ahead of time, possibly being proactive, reaching out to developers and 61A folks. That was a creative way of that. They were also the first candidate, so sometimes the first one gets a little extra stuff. As I was going through,
Kind of interesting though, the last one did real well too.
I know.
I didn't think they had a prayer.
Well, and then as going to the last one, when I was opening up their proposal, I was blown away with the number of communities they worked in, and the work product that they've given, bylaws and reviews of other things like that. So it wasn't just the presentation, there was actually substance behind it.
I like Deutsch Williams and MHTL for similar reasons, because I thought the person who was going to be the lead, well, actually one of them, Paul, was going to be the lead on Deutsch, and Mr. DeLuca, I think, was the backup. I can't remember now because I didn't write this
Yes,
down.
that's correct.
I mean, they provide, first of all, Mr. DeLuca, I thought to me, was the best way of communicating ideas beyond the law. Like, he was able to impress upon me what his philosophy of working with the town was better than anybody, and what his theories were, and then, of course, the lead. But Deutsch Williams, the same thing. I think Paul Durensis. What also struck me about him was his involvement with the MMA, and so he's going to be really up to date. And the fact that he's been a selectman, so knowing both sides, I think, was important to me. And the fact that most of his firms, and both of those firms, I thought had a really good ratio of how many towns I will tell you that the Mead one really, although she was joking, I don't think she was joking so much. And I think they're oversubscribed, and that would be my concern.
That's a little bit of a concern.
Right, so the other ones, I thought, when they said low, you know what, I want to make sure, Paul Durensis was very clear, I want to make sure that when you call, you get an answer, and we don't want to go beyond more than 5 or 6. That's what we have, and we have 24 attorneys, so I'm like, I was really, and I liked his approach, again, very good philosophical approach for how he thought the relationship between the town and the legal counsel. I mean, because if you compare these, it's not like I thought one was head and shoulders better than everybody else. They were all kind of the same baseline. But these are the things that I think differentiate themselves for me. And Merrick O'Connell, I would say that I put up there because they have that. I really liked Brian. I liked the fact that he was succinct. I don't like answers that go on and on forever. And he was clear. And of course, with the reference of working with Mark Terry for many years, Mark is a fabulous attorney to work with. And if he's representative of what the firm represents, I'm willing to take that. And those are why I ranked mine the way I did.
I just want to add one thing. The municipal experience, I think I was impressed by people that have had that, and I will just point out that Mears and Harrington, the majority of attorneys in their firm also serve on municipal boards in their own communities, and I thought that was important. I will say the one concern that I have about Merrick O'Connell is that there are 4 attorneys that do the bulk of the municipal work. And they're currently working in 8 communities, and I'm a little bit concerned about the bandwidth.
So who do we want to invite back? Or do we want to do some reference checking before we decide that?
I think we should limit the amount of people that, I think we should at least have some sort of short list after this meeting.
Oh, absolutely.
Before we.
Well, there's a
start
lot of
checking.
overlap on ours.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
we
agree.
shows up the most.
So let's,
I would think we could go to 4.
yeah,
Right?
I'd like to go to 4. So anybody that showed up on, several of them showed up on all of ours, so I think those are.
Okay, let's see. Myers and Harrington showed up on everybody's list
Okay, so,
in the top 4.
yeah.
Mead, Tellerman showed up on 4 out of 5. Let's see. Deutsch Williams showed up on 5 out of 5. So they showed up on everybody. Murphy Hess showed up on 4 out of 5. Merrick O'Connell showed up on 1 but got rave reviews from Adam and Heather, and I really could swap out Murphy for them.
I'm one of the ones that was on top. I'm fine with that not being in there.
Okay, so then we're looking for, if we said Merrick O'Connell, Deutsch Williams, and Myers Harrington, who would we add as the 4th? Mead Tellerman was on
4 out
You
of
already
5.
said that, you
Four
already
out of
said that,
five.
4 out of 5.
And so was it MHTL
Right,
was on 4 out of 5. I think.
right. So
So it's a toss.
we've got 5 firms that appear on our
Right.
list.
Right.
How many is Merrick? have?
1 out of 5.
So that one's not there, so.
So I think we have the 4 unless we want to reconsider Merrick O'Connell.
We want to make Murphy, what is it, Murphy,
It was MHTL. That's just
MHTL
You don't
the
think I
4th?
know all the names.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. So we got Myers Harrington, Deutsch Williams, MHTL, and Mead
Mead.
Tellerman.
Yes.
Those
Everybody
are
feel
4,
comfortable
right?
with that?
Yeah.
We can invite them back?
Yeah.
Well, we should do reference checks for them before
Yeah.
we have them back.
Okay, that's fair enough. Anybody want to take the lead on that? I did the reference checks on town manager.
Well, I think we should split it up. I don't think one person should do all of them.
No, I agree.
I mean, I think we should have one person can do each one.
We should have the same set of questions.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we gotta develop a set of questions, I think.
Okay.
What's their responsiveness?
That's the number one question.
That's right. How did you handle a conflict with the board?
Do you want to submit a couple of questions and ask Heather to just kind of put the questions together, and then we'll divvy up who calls who?
Sure.
Does that sound like a plan?
Well, we've got
By
5 of
next-
us and we have 4 firms, so how are we going to do that?
I'll pass.
You don't want to think about it.
More point around the desk, I don't care who you pick.
Jumped right on that.
The first one volunteering.
He's so gracious.
Thank you for passing it.
I'll do it if nobody else, if somebody doesn't.
And thank you, Heather, for doing the matrix.
The matrix is very
It was very
helpful.
good, and thanks to...
I'm glad we had the blue pill.
Okay, so we have our marching orders for the next meeting, right? And then,
I will not be here for the next meeting. I will submit questions, but I'd be more than happy to call to find the references for one of these, but we're not inviting them back next week anyway.
No, no.
But I will not be at the meeting. I'll be up skiing.
okay, I have a couple of warrants we have to sign, so one.
Okay, so our plan is to submit a couple, can we, just a couple questions, or one question, or what, does it matter?
Let's let Heather quarterback the reference questions. If
Okay.
you have any you particularly want to ask everybody, send them to her,
Okay, great.
all right?
Oh, that's
Do you
good
want
for
me to
asking.
do the reference checks? I can-
No.
No? Okay.
Oh, do you want to?
I can. That's 12 phone calls, right? 3.
Well, in
Three
some ways,
references
in some ways, it's better for the same person to do it when you think about
Yeah,
it.
that's true.
Yeah, that's true.
If you're willing to do it, that'd be great.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Okay, so why don't we give feedback to her on what are our important questions, if there are any. I certainly feel comfortable that she could come up with the right questions, but if you want,
I think our number one issue
it's
is
responsiveness, right?
responsiveness.
Obviously.
The other thing I just would acknowledge is that not in any of our top 4, probably in top 5, is KP Law.
Mine was tied with my Miaris and Harrington.
Yeah, I mean, mine ranked higher, but I was still concerned that I don't think they're quite there yet for what we're looking for. And as Adam said, it's not a bad idea to have a fresh viewpoint on our legal situation at this point.
My 5th was Merrick.
They were my 3rd, and then became my 4th, and then became my 5th, and then became my 6th, as
others did.
people
as you
came
kept
in.
ranking.
You know, so I felt comfortable with that's the process. You know.
Well, let's be the board that doesn't have any clue about what we should choose, and then we'll find out what Heather chooses.
Oh, there we go.
We're going to simulate Bob's
What do we got?
question.
Water Commission.
Okay, we have a water commissioners
Sorry, I
warrant.
couldn't make it up there before this meeting. Sorry.
And another water commissioners. We have minutes from February 7th to February
Oh, all right.
14th.
Signed it already.
Well then. I can go home.
No, we haven't voted on this. Not yet.
No. The minutes?
I'm assuming you will save the work on the people that we're bringing back and discard the rest.
Pardon me?
I didn't understand that
We have a
question.
master copy.
Maybe that's a 948 question.
RFP.
Oh, yeah, please.
So the only, I guess on that point, I guess the question is, are we following your permit process that we set up? Because we're supposed to rank them and document why. Are we still supposed to do that and get that to you, or for the file?
Yes, because in the
Yes.
RFP, it says that why we're going to do that.
Okay, so the next step really is to take our notes and physically, because I ranked them physically, but I didn't actually say this is number 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then give them to you so that we've got it for the record.
All right, so what do we have to do now? This is getting rather...
Sure, no, the
Yeah,
RFP
yeah.
said that the form says you're supposed to fill out the thing, rank them, and then at the end it says, overall rank comparing all proposers 1 through 9, assigning a rating to each comparison must combine to each proposal and qualified interest. So therefore, we're supposed to,
So aren't we supposed to, according to this, choose which of the highest ranking ones are?
Correct, which you did.
Right.
yeah. So we
I
just,
think you followed the right procedure.
the question is, do you have the documentation in case anyone questioned it? That's what I'm saying, that we really should be giving you the material, or you document what we gave.
I think Jamie has
Jamie's,
it, and it will
okay.
be documented in the minutes.
Okay, good.
Okay, so I don't have to fill out...
We don't have to do anything.
Officially, okay.
Okay, because I did fill out my form.
In our discussion.
Yeah.
Especially,
Okay.
you know, we're dealing with the lawyers who want to make sure we're not doing anything illegal. Or anything else like that. They've been very-
I love that. I have no tolerance for corruption.
Yeah.
That was my favorite comment for that.
Don't go to Washington.
Thank you.
Okay, making a motion to adjourn.
Sorry, I'm supposed to sign it.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you all.
Good job, that was tough work.